The research station's alarm cut through the thin atmosphere of Kepler 442b like a serrated blade. Lyra's fingers flew across the emergency console, her breath coming in short, controlled bursts as she assessed the catastrophic hull breach in Sector 7. 14 minutes of oxygen remained in the life support system. 14 minutes before everyone aboard would suffocate in the nitrogen-heavy air that was already seeping through the failing seals. The Velker cubs huddled in the corner of the observation deck, their crystalline eyes reflecting the strobing red emergency lights. There were 5 of them, no older than 3 standard cycles, their fur rippling with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed their mounting confusion. They had been visiting the station as part of a cultural exchange program, their first time away from their homeworld's perfect atmospheric conditions. Rin, the smallest of the group, pressed closer to Lyra's leg. The cub's translator collar chirped softly. "Teacher Lyra, why does the air taste wrong?" Lyra knelt beside the young Velker, forcing her expression into something resembling calm. The Velker were an advanced species, their technology centuries beyond humanity's, their civilization spanning 12 systems. But they had never known disaster. Their worlds were engineered paradises, their lives cushioned by automated systems that anticipated every need, prevented every tragedy. They had evolved beyond fear, beyond panic, beyond the desperate animal instinct to survive at any cost. They had no word in their language for emergency. "The station is damaged," Lyra explained, her voice steady despite the burning in her lungs. The oxygen was already thinning. "We need to get to the escape pods, but the shortest route is blocked. We'll have to go through the maintenance tunnels." The cubs' bioluminescent patterns flickered erratically. Their species communicated partly through these light displays, and Lyra had learned enough to recognize distress. But this was different. This was something new in their ancient peaceful race. Lyra grabbed the emergency oxygen masks from the wall compartment. Her hands trembled as she counted. 6 masks, 5 cubs. 1 human. The mathematics were simple, brutal, clear. "Everyone put these on," she instructed, distributing the masks to each cub. Rin looked up at her with those impossibly large eyes, the question unspoken but obvious. "I'll be fine," Lyra lied. "Humans are tough. We can handle low oxygen better than you can." It was partially true. Humanity had evolved on a world that tested them constantly, where survival meant adaptation, where weakness meant extinction. Humans could function in oxygen-depleted environments longer than the Velker, whose biology was optimized for perfect conditions. But not this long. Not without a mask. She had perhaps 8 minutes of useful consciousness left. The cubs needed 12 to reach the escape pods. Lyra sealed her lips and began leading them through the twisting maintenance corridors. Each breath felt like inhaling broken glass. The nitrogen was heavier now, displacing what little oxygen remained. Her vision began to tunnel at the edges, darkness creeping in like an incoming tide. Rin stayed close to her, the cub's small hand gripping her sleeve. Through the growing haze, Lyra noticed something strange in the young Velker's light patterns. The colors were shifting rapidly, chaotically, in a way she had never seen before. The other cubs displayed the same phenomenon, their bioluminescence stuttering and flaring. They were learning what fear felt like. 6 minutes. Lyra's legs felt like lead. She stumbled, caught herself against the corridor wall. The cubs clustered around her, their translated voices overlapping in concern. "Teacher Lyra is malfunctioning. Why doesn't she use her mask?" "There is no mask." She gave hers to Rin. The realization rippled through the group. For the first time in their species' recorded history, young Velkers understood sacrifice. They understood that someone could choose to die so that others might live. Their perfect ordered worldview cracked like thin ice. Rin tugged at Lyra's arm, trying to remove his own mask. "Take mine, Teacher Lyra. I don't want—" "No." Lyra's voice came out as a rasp. She pushed the mask back against the cub's face. "Keep it on." "That's an order." 4 minutes. The escape pod bay was visible now, just 50 meters ahead. Lyra's legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees, then to her hands, vision swimming. The deck felt cold against her palms. The cubs swarmed around her, their light patterns exploding in colors that had no name in their language. Terror, helplessness, grief. Rin pressed his small body against Lyra's side. The cubs' light patterns shifted into something that might have been a scream, if light could scream. The other cubs joined in, their combined bioluminescence illuminating the corridor in a desperate, primal display. And then, through the fog of hypoxia, Lyra heard something impossible. Footsteps. Running. The emergency bulkhead grinding open. Hands grabbed her shoulders, lifting. An oxygen mask pressed against her face. Cool, sweet air flooded her lungs. Lyra gasped, consciousness slamming back like a physical blow. "Breathe, damn it!" a voice commanded. Commander Torres, the station chief, his face begrimed with soot and blood. The engineering team sealed the breach. "We've got atmosphere again." Lyra sucked in great, shuddering breaths as Torres hauled her to her feet. The cubs surrounded them both, their light patterns still wild, still chaotic, still displaying that newfound emotion. "You could have died," Torres said quietly, supporting her weight as they walked toward the escape pod bay. 8 minutes without oxygen. "You were cutting it close. The cubs needed 12, Lyra replied, her voice hoarse. "I had 8 to give." Rin clung to her leg, the small Velker's translator collar silent for once. But the cubs' light patterns spoke volumes. They had learned panic today. They had learned loss. They had learned that the universe could be cruel, random, and deadly. And they had learned what humans were. Later, when the rescue ships arrived and the cubs were safely returned to their families, the Velker Council requested a full report. They wanted to understand what had happened to their children, why their light patterns had changed, why they now displayed emotions that had been extinct in their species for millennia. The report was simple. They met a human. The Velker had wondered for years what made humanity special, what allowed them to compete with species far more advanced, far more intelligent. They had theorized about human aggression, human adaptability, human creativity. But they had never understood the core truth. Humans were the species that gave away their oxygen masks. They were the species that counted the minutes they had left and spent every one of them saving someone else. The cubs would never forget teacher Lyra, and through them, the Velker would finally understand why humanity, despite all their flaws and limitations, deserved their place among the stars. Because when the air ran out and death came knocking, humans didn't save themselves first. They saved the cubs. And in those final moments, as consciousness faded and darkness closed in, they didn't think about their own survival. They thought, 12 minutes. They need 12. I have 8 to give. And 8 was enough.